The East Coast Radio Campfire. Ndumiso at 9.
All right, if you ever doubted our word, this is one moment where you will get egg on your face, because right now in the studio, I can smell some honey. I can smell some lemon, and people who know the man will tell you exactly what it is that I mean. Well, this is a big fat interview on Ndumiso at 9 around the campfire with me, your host, Ndumiso Ngcobo. This is our weekly feature where we select one of the many giants that walk among us. We select them while they're still alive, because it's one of those things. You know, we always talk about people in glowing terms after they're gone, but we pick them while they walk among us, put them on this hot chair, and do our best to get to know the person behind the public figure. Now, they do not come bigger than tonight's guest, because with me here in the studio, I have the captain of the ship, the commander-in-chief, the CEO of South Africa Incorporated, the president of the Republic of South Africa. Welcome to East Coast Radio, the land of Fansanzi, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
All right, which one of those did you like most? The captain of the ship or the commander in chief? Does it really matter?
Doesn't matter. There's not. You don't have to love any. We're just given these names, you know.
All right. You look strong. You look like a strapping. You walked in, I looked at you. You look like a young man in his 40s, 50s. Babu Ngamalala. You seem to have found the fountain of youth, but you're not willing to share with anyone. What is your secret? You need to share it with us. The reason that I point this out, and it's got everything to do with what we're doing tonight, is that a little known fact, strangely enough, is that in little over a month, you will be turning 70 years of age, if I count correctly. Am I correct?
I think so.
You think?
I think so.
Well, I mean, this is what we are told, by the information that we have. And most people, when they turn 70, or it's a decade and so on and so forth, usually take the time to do a bit of reflection, to kind of look back. Are you the type of person, Mr. President?
Well, it happens at times. You do look back and see the distance we have covered, the challenges we have come across, the successes we have had, the difficulties that we have had in our life. You can't not do so. The distance is quite a few yards away.
Let's see how much of it we can travel together tonight with us. In the African cultures, generally, when people ask you, people don't ordinarily just say to you, "Who are you?" People always say, "Ungowakabani, uzala ubani." Which people do you come from? And the question that I have to ask is, President Jacob Zuma, you obviously had a set of parents. Who were they? Who is the man who bore the giant that we see in front of us, and who is that woman?
Well, my father's name is Mazwi.
Yes.
He had a number of names. He has praises, etc. Mazwi is the son of Mnyaganya, Inkosi Mnyaganya. Mnyaganya was the son of Msholozi.
Yes.
Msholozi, the son of Matomela.
Yes.
And you can go back.
Yeah.
Those, except my father, were all traditional leaders, were all Amakosi.
Yes.
My mother is Unokbegisisa.
Yes.
Mzobe. Mamzobe.
Ntombi yaseMazobe.
Ntombi yaseMazobe.
Oh, my God.
KwaMaphumulo, komalume.
Yes.
Abazali bam lapho.
Yes.
Abazali mina.
And you grew up in this area which is called Nkandla, which is laced with this history. There's a history of the Nkandla forest where Inkosi uPambata kaMancinza ended up after the uprising in 1906. Inkosi uCetshwayo at some point also found himself in that forest. Is this? Did you grow up in an area where there was this awareness of the historical importance of Nkandla?
Definitely, I grew up with that. I think it had its own impact on my growth as a young man. You should also say Nkandla appears in the praises of King Shaka.
Yes,
he also used it to some degree during his major campaigns, particularly when I think he was fighting Zwide.
Of course,
he actually sent food and women to hide at Nkandla forest, and therefore Nkandla has is quite a historic place.
Yeah.
In fact, King Gedleyihlekisa Silo, it lies buried there. And of course, the Bambata kaMancinza rebellion or war ended up there.
Yeah.
And it influenced the entire area. And as we grew up, in between the Izinganekwane told by old people, in between were stories about the Bambata war.
Yeah.
And we had an occasion to listen to those who were there, some of them who were captured by the British, who told the story as it happened. And therefore, that was one of the first influences. Firstly, to know that there was an oppression, because these will tell you about how ruthless the British were, and tell the story about Ukanda Mpondo.
Yes,
and therefore begin to say there was an oppressor here.
Yeah.
And there was who was white. There was a black person who was being oppressed.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, you grew up with the story, and therefore began to be aware at that point in time. I remember one old lady who used to tell the story. They were in their teens when the Bambata war ended, and one old man, Wagwapengu, who used to tell us the story. They loved relating the story, as the grannies would love relating the same Nganekwane night after night.
Yeah.
This was what they would talk about. They were also old by that time.
But did you have what was, and I do not know what is a typical childhood, but I would imagine from what I've heard, and which is why it is, because then no one can speak on your behalf, that you grew up, you spent a lot of your youth, as most boys growing up in the rural areas, herding cattle, herding goats, which means that ukhule ukhathwa. You grew up in the tradition of stick fighting. Am I right?
Absolutely correct. I looked after goats and I looked after cattle.
Yeah.
And ngakhathwa futhi.
And bearing in mind that this is going to all KwaZulu-Natal, and that there are people listening who were there. Were you a champion stick fighter, or did you win some? Did you lose some? I mean, I respect you as an elder, and I respect you as the president. So I won't ask you to turn away so I can see if there's any scars at the back, because you get this when you run away. How good were you at stick fighting?
Well, generally we don't tell how good we were.
Yeah.
I think it is those who witnessed you who will tell the story. But I never ran away. and I can tell you, Mom Dala would tell you, lecture you, that no man must walk here with a scar behind.
Yeah.
You must always walk here with a scar in front, because that will mean we're fighting. Because in this homestead, there is no coward.
Yeah.
In fact, incidentally, one day I came with a small scar here in front. You would think, and I was still very small, you would think that there would be sympathy. She was happy, she almost ululated to say, here there is a man I can see the sky in front.
All right, when you step out of the studio, I'm just going to walk behind you and just scan the back of the
head. You can scan there, you'll find nothing, absolutely.
But then at this this period when one looks at your life, at some point you then find yourself in Fansanzi land, right here, because this is what we call this, Durban, on the station, Fansanzi.
Meaning?
It's fun and Mzansi.
Oh,
so
Fansanzi. Wonderful.
All right. And you find yourself here, in Durban as a young man, starting to work. When was this, and how old were you, and how did this come about that you ended up in the city?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about that. Firstly, I grew up at Nkandla, as you say, look after cattle. It was a great school.
Yeah.
When I say at times Ngelusa, people take it to mean very little.
Yeah.
It means I grew up in a traditional Zulu school.
Yeah.
And that's what made me to be what I am today.
Yeah.
I always say to people, if you're walking in the forest, in the mountain, a cheeky snake emerges. There's no book to read what to do, but you must survive.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of a school, at times very rough, at times very enjoyable. I grew up to a point in Zulu which will say ngaze ngaba ingwele.
Yes.
You grow up uqhathwa.
Yes.
Uziqhathe abanye.
Yes.
That tells you really went to, if you want to call it, to tertiary kind of level.
Yeah.
Now, you would appreciate that I lost my father at a young age.
Yes.
And therefore my mother firstly went to stay at her place, Kwamapumulo, for a while, and then started working in Durban as a domestic worker.
Yeah.
That means, therefore, much as I grew up in Nkandla, I very often came to her in Durban. I also stayed to Kwamapumulo.
Yes.
So in a sense, I had the experience of the three places.
Yes.
So as a young boy, I used to come to Durban on my shorts,
which part
on
of
my
Durban?
bare feet. My mother used to work around the suburbs, particularly your Morningside, around Musgrave, different places. I also, during those days, there were not much townships. I think they were very small. There was Mkumbane in particular, where she stayed as well. I stayed at Mkumbane. But also my brother stayed in Durban, particularly Greyville area. So I used to walk around there. I'm sure many people don't know that the Durban International Airport was at Greyville before it went down to Ringan.
Yes.
I used to walk there on barefoot and stand there and watch the aircrafts taking off and landing.
Yeah.
And I used to go a lot to the beachfront, to the sea there. So much as I grew up there, but I used to come very often in Durban. So I didn't come only when I started working. That is why in my growing up, when I was growing up, if I was here for a while, I would even have some piece jobs and some informal jobs just to augment my mother's salary. So in a sense, I didn't walk here when I come to work for the first time and saw Durban for the first time.
Yeah.
In a sense, I knew Durban.
You were not a Jim comes to Joe.
No, I was not Jim come to Joe. I used to speak the Zulu societal of Mkumba. Yeah.
All right. And there's a very interesting story I heard about you, and which was also part of, because I think at that point you were still quite a lighty, about walking into a shop. The one time, and without any warning, you found yourself under a barrage of blows in a shop because some shop owner thought you had pinched some sweets. There's a lot of stories about you, which is why we've got you here.
It was actually along Mngeni Road, at the corner of Mngeni Road and some other little road.
Yeah.
as I say, I used to stay with my brothers at times in Greyville. I was walking. There was a particular sweet I loved. It was very nice, soft, and I could put my teeth deep in it. So I walked here, and I bought my sweets, and a young white boy, youngish than me a little bit, walked in, and he was looking in this glass where there were sweets, and he was wondering which one to buy. Yeah. And my scene was to help him to point the sweets that I loved, and I thought, if you buy this one, it will be fun. And the fellow on the other side, he was Greek, on the other side, who knew me. I used to come and buy here. He got so angry that I was doing what I was doing, and walked this side, and I thought he's just coming maybe to joke. Yeah. And he gave me such a clap. I've never forgot up to this day, because I didn't know why he was beating me up. And he says, you can't be telling a white boy what to do, what not to. Who are you? You know, that's apartheid at my young age. Yeah. Really having done nothing by trying to help another child, to say, this is a very nice sweet. And that was a sin. I've never forgotten it.
There's an old Greek man somewhere listening to this, remembering it. All right, we're going to go away just to catch our breath and stretch our legs. When we come back, Mr. President, I'm going to be, you and I are going to be talking about that period in your life, your political awakening, and all of that followed thereafter.
The Big Fat Interview.
Around the Campfire.
Campfire. Ndumiso at 9.
All right, you are still with me, your host Ndumiso Ngcobo, around the Campfire East Coast Radio, still sitting, reminiscing with the president, who, as soon as the first bars of that song we just played, I could see his eyes light up. Just tell everyone what you said as soon as you heard the first bars of that song.
Well, I said, we are playing the music I love. Absolutely. I love Brook Band.
You love Brook Band?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you see, now you're taking me back to me growing up in my house with my father, who was only 2 years older than you are. Now, for you, now living here in this city, Durban, growing up as a young man, what did you get up to here? Because this is just about us getting to know you and what informs who you are and how you've ended up here. Because I cannot imagine that during this period, in the pre-Robben Island days, that you were sitting there thinking one day you'll be sitting in Umhlanga, being interviewed as president.
It was just sugar canes.
It was just sugar canes, yeah. What did you do in your spare time other than when you were not working? Movies? Did you?
Well, as a young man, when I used to visit my mother, as I say, I was here to visit her.
Yeah.
And she had a place in Kitomano.
Yeah.
Where she stayed down. Virtually stay there, Mkumba and Kwapangi, but also visit my brothers who used to stay in town, particularly Greyville, First Avenue, North Street, etc. But occasionally I will have to come to her, and we were not allowed to come and visit.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite a hassle. If, for an example, I was to come and sleep there, I will have to come in when the owners of the house where she would be working would be sleeping.
Yeah.
In other words, really crept in without anybody noticing.
Yeah.
And I will have also to walk out quite early.
Yeah.
If they were working, I will sort of remain until they're out. Then you go out, because they were not allowed. Even a child was not allowed to come in.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'll be walking, visiting others that I knew, particularly where my brother stayed from. Or if I was in Ketoman, we'd be playing with other boys on the street, the tennis ball with our bare feet, or pushing the rim of a bicycle, which was a very nice car with a stick.
With a stick, yeah.
Absolutely. In Kitomano, and I remember at some point Chesterville was still very new, because Kitomano, the road was dirt road.
This is now what, in the 50s?
In the 50s.
In the 50s, yeah.
Very early 50s.
Very early 50s, yeah.
You'd actually love to go down to Chesterville.
Yeah.
That was the first place where in the African township you have tarred roads.
Tarred roads, yeah.
It was very nice to push the rim.
Yeah.
You know, so that kind of stuff you do. Walking around, I used to love taking photos. I would love to go to Basco.
Yeah.
So those would be my activities. Bear in mind, it would be a very short time. It would be either in winter, when there was no strict looking after cattle down there.
Yes.
So that would be the time that would have an opportunity to come in.
I had occasion on the chair you're sitting on to talk to the premier of this province, Dr. Gedleyihlekisa, about just that period in one's life, formative years, the teenage years, and he admitted for the entire province to hear that when it came to the ladies, he was quite tongue-tied, and that his tongue only loosened when he got to medical school, which is when... Because I remember I was asking him, so do you even remember the first girl that you kissed? Before I lose all respect for ANC leadership that comes from KwaZulu-Natal, please tell me you were also not suffering from this disease of having a tongue that is tied at that particular age. Were you a busy young man?
No, I don't want to make comparisons.
Yes.
I don't think it's fair.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, I grew up, there's what is called in Zulu,
yes.
Yes, that's why I started. So I did everything that the young people did.
Yeah.
And also going to big functions where there will be little girls.
Yeah.
Always worrying them. It was what the boys will do.
Yeah.
And there's no time I can say there was no fun.
Yeah.
In that kind of situation. So
yeah.
Quite active all the time from the childhood. And if the girls were in the river swimming or doing something, we go and worry them there all the time and want to come around. They'll be running around. So it was quite a kind of a busy life as you grow up.
the language of a politician. We know what you say. All right, here's the thing. When all of this happens, you then get into political activism. You get involved in the union movement. But what I am particularly interested in is that you at some point ended up on that infamous island, Robben Island. But the thing that I'm particularly fascinated about, because I can imagine it's very clear in your head, is you at some point had decided that you were skipping the country. You are going to Lusaka, but obviously via, I think the route at the time was sort of around Botswana, because you were captured where? In Zeerust. Just take us through that day. What happened through the day, and exactly how it is that you ended up in that group of people who were captured, trying to get out of the country.
Well, you will appreciate that. Firstly, as a young man who had become involved, influenced firstly by the family member who was in the trade union movement as well as in the ANC, but also
Montogaziyo is or not? Mntugabongo.
Yes.
Okay.
As a first born of my father.
Yeah.
Coming to Durban, also seeing my mother, noticing the public meetings of the ANC as well, and also noticing the volunteers, which I loved very much. Later, of course, I joined the ANC, I became the volunteer. But as soon as the ANC was banned in 1960, we who were very active here in Durban, we had a culture of political education.
Yeah.
We attended meetings on Thursdays of the youth, and I think it was Wednesday, it was ANC day, and Tuesday it was SACTO Day, the trade union movement, and particular trade union movement. There's a lot of discussions about labor theory, the conditions of the workers, etc. Suddenly the ANC is banned. And we say, what is happening? A lot of debate. Should we agree to be banned, etc.? There were an experience that in the particularly southern Rhodesia, once the organizations were banned, they changed names, etc. There were once ANCs there. So a lot of debate. And of course the instructions came.
Yeah.
And the instructions came from National that the ANC was going underground.
Yeah.
And here, nobody would know who is in it, who is not in it. It was a different method of approaching you to belong to an underground structure.
Yeah.
The ANC said, we are going to operate underground because in 1950, the South African Communist Party was banned and it went underground, and it had been operating for about a decade underground. So there was a conviction that the ANC also could operate underground. And so we went underground. That is a system, at times, it was called the receipt system, because there you couldn't carry a card, because that would be furthering the aims of a banned organization. So you pay, you are given a receipt which would not necessarily say this is a card of the ANC. Now, 1960, as a youth, you are saying, but why? Why were we quiet? These guys are cruel. Let us fight. You are in your head, there's a lot of Chinese Revolution. People are teaching you about it. There had been just Mau Mau in Kenya, which was very famous. Couldn't we do the Mau Mau here? In fact, when it was quiet, this business of underground, no activities, was not enough. So we here in Durban, the young people, started having our informal discussions. Can we do something? Can we start the war? You know?
The thinking of an 18-year-old.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We in fact, we used to cross across the harbor. There was a small boat and walk across other side of the Isbubulungu.
Yes.
With some nice things. Pretend as if we are going to some picnic. And yet, in fact, we are going to have serious discussions. How do we do it? One area we used was just above Wentworth on the sea, where there's a engine there, and in what you call
the refinery.
There were no houses on the other side, totally no houses. It was black up to Mlazi. So we used to sit there, look at this as if we are just enjoying this, and we'll be having serious discussions. This happened particularly in 1960, 61, and indeed.
And the decision to then skip?
This is before that.
This
is before the formation of MK. We actually planned to start the battle. Childish. Felt that, well, if you go to those days, West Street, Mid Street were basically white area in terms of business and everything.
Demarcation,
The whites would be moving there. Would be all been in some Pine Street, Grey Street, walking around there. We actually thought we should buy bush knives and start butchering the whites, you know. Very immaturish. And there was a fellow from Groudville, we used to call him Gizenga. We then said, well, we can't start it, just start it and disappear. And the leaders we thought they were sort of afraid will come, and then the revolution would have started. But because we were disciplined, we said, well, let us inform the leadership here that we have got this plan. So we sent Zeng and others, and they found Bernard Kosi was one of the leaders who was sitting, the SATU leader, waiting, unknown to us. Some of us, among us, had actually gone to inform the leadership that, look, there's something cooking here. Of course, when they came, Kizenga spoke first. Instead of saying we have this plan, he said we have actually bought the bush knives. They had a hip somewhere. And of course, they were given a long tongue lashing. Very serious. What are you trying to do? So we all realized how stupid we were. But of course, when December 1961, the MK announced that it has been formed.
Was not born.
But of course, on the eve of that, there was a pamphlet that had to be distributed. Even if you are not yet an MK, you were told this is a sensitive leaflet, nobody must see you distributing it. So serious things began. So once MK was formed, and then of course these young people like ourselves who were known, were eager to do something, then were recruited into MK. That is 1962. And of course, it is during the activities of MK that finally a decision was taken that people must go out. So going out was not something you do it on your own. It were the people who were in charge of MK who will recruit you and actually say, you are being given instructions that you have got to leave. To go and train. The period was supposed to be short. They say minimum of 6 months. probably a little more.
Yeah.
You'll be back and you'll be fighting. You'll be better equipped to fight. I remember the meeting that discussed this with me. There were two of my commanders. And in the process, they will actually find out what is your situation. Are you a breadwinner, etc.? In the process of the discussions, they discovered that I was a breadwinner.
Yeah.
And they said, well, if you are the only one who is looking after your family, maybe you should remain operating inside instead of going away. What will happen to the family? We debated this, and I said, look.
And your feeling at the time was what?
Sorry?
Your feeling at the time was you wanted
My feeling was I wanted to go, I wanted to fight for my freedom.
Yeah.
That was, in fact, the debate. Yeah. And I remember saying to them, I can hear you, but I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
Because you are saying I should remain, stay with my family. There is national oppression. If I go and become a soldier,
what was driving you so much, other than just the political formation that you were getting? I mean, because this is about trying to understand you, and inside the listener is sitting there thinking, it's like, if I was in that situation, would I stay? Would I go? What was the compelling thing for you?
Now, bear in mind that in the process of after having joined, there had been a lot of political education.
Yeah.
So the clear understanding of the oppression that was there, and therefore the burning thing inside to fight to liberate myself and to liberate the country.
Yeah.
And not just emotional.
Yeah.
But clearly knowing that, in fact, there will never be any freedom without any fight.
Yeah.
We'll have to be fighting. And therefore, that's what will be pushing you. And I was saying, if I fought and liberated this country, it's not just after looking after my family, but it's actually helping all those who are oppressed. And therefore, it was better to take this option. I actually convinced them.
Yeah.
And they agreed I should leave.
On the fateful day, on the way to Zeerust, you are in a car, you are in a bus. What are you in? When the moment of realization that the jig is up? When?
Well. Here in Durban, we are then told on this particular day you are leaving, and it was a Friday. You would leave, you'll be contacted, and one of them says, I will contact you, and I will hand you over to somebody else.
Yeah.
And indeed, I'm contacted. We then gather at the Durban station.
Yeah.
And we meet there. For the first time, you realize, comrade so and so and so and so. Some you didn't know.
Yeah.
But the majority we knew. They are here, it means we are together. We are then put together, and one is said to be your commander. On a train from here, 11 o'clock train, midnight, to Johannesburg.
Yeah.
That's the first thing you go. Nobody knows that you are leaving.
Yeah.
So we leave with a very clear instructions. Here you are. So and so is your head, and here is an address in case you are in trouble. That's an address you'll go to in Johannesburg in Soweto.
Yeah.
But otherwise, somebody will meet you at the station. And once you are in the station, this is there's what is called in the underground language a recognition mark. So that somebody recognizes you, that this is a person I'm looking for. So we're given a recognition thing, which was an umbrella. Now, at the station, we'll keep on playing around with this umbrella, opening it and closing it and opening it and closing it. Nobody will be noticing that this is saying something.
Yeah.
And once somebody comes to you, there is what is called the password.
Yeah.
They will then say something to you. You say something you recognize.
Yes.
So those are the instructions. So we went to Johannesburg at about 6 a.m.
Yeah.
We had to get off at Germiston, station.
Station, yeah.
Yes, we were there. And there was no one. And we started using the recognition mark. And there was no one. And we really stayed the whole day.
Yeah.
Nobody was coming. We were looking at people coming, etc., until it was dark. We're hungry. We started saying, well, anyone has some little money to put together to buy some food, etc., which we did when we finally decided when it was dark, let us make use of the address.
Yeah.
So we sent 2 of our chaps to go to Orlando, to the address.
Yeah.
To go and say, yeah, here we are. And indeed, they arrived there, and then finally at about 11 at night, 2 cars came to fetch us. They took us to Deep Soweto, Naledi, where we stayed. This was now Saturday evening. And on Sunday, we're supposed to proceed. And
proceed now to the border.
To the border.
Yeah.
So we stayed the whole Sunday. Towards afternoon, we were told we were leaving same evening. And of course, we were collected by Kumbi from the house where we were. So all in all, I think in the Kumbi, we were about 11. The Kumbi drove with us. A young fellow was driving us. Instead of taking the national road, he tried to take
some shortcuts. Yeah.
I think he must have known the area. But at some point, in the middle of nowhere, in the evening, he said, look, I think I've lost the way.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I will be able to make up the time we're supposed to make at the border. There was a particular time we're supposed to be at the border. So I think the best thing, we should go back. And we were like lions here, as he gave evidence. He says, these guys were like lions behind me. Because we said, you must be out of your mind. Don't you know that you've got to drop us where we're supposed to drop us? So he pushed, but he said, look, I'm not sure I'm going to try walking forward. But finally said, look, I'm running out of fuel. I think the tank is leaking somehow. And he stopped.
And then is this when
this is before getting arrested.
Yeah.
He stops. And we said, let's stop until sunrise. So in the morning, he was able to see the direction, but he said, look, I'm running out of petrol. We collected the little monies we had to put it together, went to next garage, put petrol. We said, go back to the national road, which he did. Now, we drove, and now, it's not the time that was put, because we're supposed to be there in the middle of the night or so, and cross. Now, it's during the day. So, it's a wrong time.
Yeah.
So, as we're driving towards Botswana, suddenly, we saw 2 police vans. In fact, one, and once it overtook us, it slowed down, and another one was behind us, and they stopped us. And we did not know what was happening. So they came and said, look, where are you going? But they did not ask us more. They said, fine, off you go. And they said, get into the van. And they put us. Now, we didn't understand Sesotho Afrikaans, some of us.
Yeah.
And of course, one black policeman who was put in the van with us said something in Sesotho. We couldn't hear. Only one fellow, Pete Mahlangu, who could understand Sotho.
Yeah.
And he whispered to some of us, he's asking, where are you guys going? We arrested a number of Kumbis in the evening. We're just coming from Pretoria to drop them. That's when we realized that some of the Kumbis that were carrying some of our comrades had been arrested.
Yeah.
So with this place where we're caught, it is Grot Mariko, near Zerast. So we're driven to Zerast police station.
And that's
where we were questioned. That's where we spent a night. And of course, the following day, we were brought back to Pretoria.
All right. Okay. This is where we are. We in the story of this man. When we come back, I am going to fast forward quite a bit because we are running out of time to more issues that pertain to the present, but also linked, to your past, particularly as an operative in Swaziland and Mozambique, and some of the relationships that you had, some of the relationships that you forged there that have a bearing to things that are happening today. But all of that when we come back.
My name is Ndleke Albert Mazibugo.
This is Joseph Shabalala of Ladysmith, Black Mambazo.
My journey from Ladysmith to Durban was because of the ocean.
It's a beautiful place. It's people, it's food.
When I come back from touring around the world, I wish to be in my hometown, Ladysmith, before I went to my friends around. It's good to see my people at home.
It doesn't matter that somebody knows you or not. When you walk on the street and then you find people say hi, hello, Sanbona.
Fansanzi, 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 Fansanzi.
It's the East Coast way, yeah.
Debt problems? Are you struggling to maintain your monthly payments? Are you getting letters or telephone calls demanding payment, or do you try and avoid them? You need a lifeline. We're here to help. Lifeline Debt Solutions can help when others can't. SMS debt to 31647. Your lifeline is an SMS away. You don't have to have another day of stress. SMS debt to 31647. SMS is charged at R2. Lifeline Debt Solutions, because you deserve a fresh start.
The best mix from the 80s to Sunshine, 90s. And today. East Coast Radio. The East Coast Radio Campfire. Ndumiso at 9.
Right, we're still in conversation with the president, who has got a lot of stories, to tell about growing up, and that's because we are asking you these questions because we are trying to get inside your brain a little bit and understand the man who is busy steering this ship. One of the most poignant things I ever saw is a documentary titled Behind the Rainbow that was chronicling what was happening within the ANC in the lead up to the Bulukwane conference. And one thing that struck me is an interview you did in the documentary where I can't even remember the question that was being asked. But what struck me was the tone in your voice when you spoke about the relationships that you had forged in Swaziland, that you had forged in Mozambique as an operative, particularly because a lot of people are very interested in it. Particularly the how you described your familial, as in your brother. You did not use brother as a metaphor when you talked about former President Thabo Mbeki. Just how close were you during those days? Because this was now in the 1970s and as operatives, and just how close were you as operatives?
Well, very close indeed with Comrade Mbeki.
Yeah.
We worked in Swaziland briefly before I left the country after Robben Island.
Yeah.
Worked with him. He operated in Swaziland with Albert Lomo.
Yeah.
And we communicated whilst I was in the country. And finally joined them in Swaziland under certain circumstances. We worked very closely in Swaziland. We became very close.
Yeah.
Did a number of things which will appear in the book when I write my book.
Such as the fact that I read somewhere he actually taught you how to handle a gun.
It was one of the things.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. Sort of, because we were there, we had all the time. So part of my first thing to handle the gun, dismantle it and put it together as the initial kind of thing. That was part of it.
Yeah.
But we clicked very well politically.
Yeah.
Politically, we almost think alike, thought alike on every issue.
Yeah.
And worked together.
Yeah.
Complemented each other very well. and really became good friends.
Yeah.
And of course, we got detained together, arrested in Swaziland and detained in the maximum prison. Also had a moment to stay for a period in Matsapa maximum prison. At some point, we were taken out. We were about to be put on a plane. We were being sent to Lusaka via Botswana.
Yeah.
But the plane was going to land in Jan Smuts and we were going to connect there.
Oh.
And we said, sorry, we are not getting into this plane. You know?
Yeah.
We had to be taken back to prison. And of course, I went to Mozambique and operated in Mozambique. He went to Lusaka and proceeded to Nigeria, where he represented the organization. Now, by that time, he had become a member of the National Executive Committee in 1975.
Yeah.
I became a member of the National Executive Committee in 1977. And therefore, even if we're operating in different places, but we then came to NEC meetings together. But later we operated together. He came to Mozambique all the time. So we became very close.
Yeah.
At some point, we then all stayed in Lusaka.
Yes.
In fact, in Lusaka, at some point, some comrades referred to us as twins. We agreed on almost everything politically, trusted one another, worked together, complemented one another very well. In fact, that's why we became brothers.
Yeah.
Part of that was not just because we're working together here. I had always regarded his father, Governor Mbeki, as my father.
Yes.
All our leaders in that kind of sense. So it was absolutely one of the friendships that we had forged very strongly together. So all the time, until we started the process of really probing to people before negotiations, in the negotiations, we complemented each other very well in every respect. Even in the National Executive Committee meetings, if there were debates, we always had common points and were able to motivate sufficiently to convince people about the points we're raising. So it was very close. We really forged that kind of friendship. Because
the one thing that came out when I was watching this documentary was a sense, and this is just for our benefit, is the type of person that you are. It came out strongly, this feeling of sadness that when you did finally start not seeing things the same way. We will not get into all the details of what happened. Was there a feeling of deep sadness at having lost a brother when you started to not move in the same path?
Yes, I think so. I think partly because I knew our closeness.
Yeah.
How much that had helped the ANC to move forward on a number of things.
Yes.
And there was a sense that that kind of complementing situation and leaving aside the complementarity, but the fact that we thought alike and we could do things, we could take the movement forward, I knew that this was getting to a point where it was no longer going to happen.
Yes.
And then knowing, as I do, where we came from, what obstacles we had come across, and I knew that this was not helping the organization at all. That's why I felt the sense really that this was a sad moment.
It was a sad moment. You know, do you spend a lot of time reading things written about you?
No, I don't spend a lot of time reading things written about me. As I can tell you, a part of my education was that I continuously read as I was growing up. But fortunately, this time my reading is very limited because of the time. But I still read. I love reading books. I don't read much written about me. But a little bit that I always read, at times, it's not accurate.
Yeah.
So I always feel.
Is this a type of thing that gets to you? Do you have a thin skin or
not at all? No problem. People can say whatever. I mean, people say so many things. I just say, if I read about myself and I find a lot of distortions, why should I be reading distortions about me?
Because
at times, not lots of them, but at times.
You seem to be the type of person who elicits a lot of passionate feelings in people. I don't think I've ever met anyone who was oblivious to President Jacob Zuma. People either love you, and there's like millions of people who love you, or people have got very passionate negative feelings about you. Is that your experience? Have you ever met anyone who was completely oblivious to you, who didn't have strong feelings about you either way?
There are people, I mean, those who don't know me that much.
Yeah. But who does not know you?
There are quite a bit people, I mean, some people who don't know me.
Yeah.
I think perhaps it is because of what I am. Firstly, I have no ill feelings about people. Even those who can passionately hating me, I don't hate them. I have no problem with them. I'm just a simple person, and I love human beings, and I'm passionate about human beings. And that's why you can't say I've got this extraordinary friend.
Yes.
I've got people that I'm used to, generally my friends, comrades. Some of them not my comrades, colleagues at work. Yeah. I always get closer to them and really feel they're part of me. And it's because also I'm not a closed book.
Yes.
People get to know me quickly. Yeah. They know what type of a person I am, and indeed I love talking to people and feeling and making people feel also accommodated, and that's how I deal with people, young and old. Is the same. Is
exactly the same thing. Now, do you have any fears, Mr. President? I mean, are there moments, for instance, where you wake up? Because I know with how I think, I would wake up one moment 6 months into the job and think, oh my goodness, what have I done? Do you ever wake up and think to yourself, I am the leader of the oldest revolutionary movement in Africa. I am the president of the biggest economy. Do you ever feel any trepidation? Do you ever feel not equal to the task? Do you
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. As I said earlier, I grew up a head boy.
Yeah.
That, I think, trained me to some degree. As I made an example at the beginning, that if you're walking in the mountain, in the bush, in the grass, a very angry snake emerged.
Yeah.
You can't say, what did Book X said? If a snake does this, what do you do? You have to know how to deal with any challenge that comes before you. In a sense, being given the leadership, firstly, I can tell you, there was one moment when in 1977, I was elected into the National Executive Committee. I think that's the only time I felt, I'm still very young. Why should I be?
Yeah.
I actually went to the Secretary General of the ANC, Alfred Ngcobo. I said, Comrade Ngcobo, I think the organization is making a mistake.
Yeah.
I don't think I can be. He said, look, the organization has decided. Once you're given a task, you're given a task. I think that's the only moment I remember. I felt, not that I was not equal to the task, I felt I was still young to become a member of the National Executive Committee. But ever since, and bear in mind, I've been given very sensitive and very serious kind of missions. I've been outside of the country.
Yeah.
I have been given missions to walk into South Africa, to operate inside the country and go back. And very serious. And when I write my books, people will get to know what happens. So there is no task that I've felt it was not equal to me. Particularly if the task was political.
Yeah.
Because I've never doubted my political understanding of the country, of the world, of what I think should be done, as well as the task that I've got to do. So there is no time, no day I've woke up and said, what a huge task, am I equal to it? I always said, once the ANC says to me, this is your task, what I know, I should do everything in my power to succeed in the task given.
In this country, Mr. President, as we close this, we have got challenges. A whole lot of challenges. Yesterday we saw marches. We recently had some turmoil within the party with the youth league. There are challenges. You recently had a State of Nation address, and Minister Pravin Gordhan came up with a budget speech. We've got infrastructure challenges and so on and so forth. Speaking now, you've got listeners listening to you. Speaking to them as the captain of this ship that is South Africa, and someone saying to you, okay, attention on deck, the captain is about to speak. For people who feel some level of trepidation, who feel uneasy about the future of this country, what would your final words be to them listening to you now?
I think the final word will be, South Africa has a history, and its history is complex. We have come across a lot of challenges, but South Africa has always overcome those challenges, whether the challenges were political or economic. What is important is that as a country, people must know we have the leadership that is given the task to lead this country, and it has been leading this country. The fact that we led the struggle and indeed defeated apartheid, that nobody else felt it will ever be defeated, must indicate we are capable, we are a capable people to move forward. And what is also important, there is clarity. We know where we're going. When we entered the negotiations here in 1990, nobody believed we could negotiate a peaceful settlement in this country. In fact, people said impossible, particularly because we did not ask any specialists to come and help us. We did it as South Africans. We have that capacity. And I believe that this country must know we have moved very far. We are going to move very far. We must be confident. I think there is a sense of people who feel, and there are very few, who feel they insecure and feel negative things and start saying things and be critical. The fact of the matter is that South Africa is moving forward. And all people, all of us, must participate in making South Africa a better country. And we have a leadership, we have political organizations that are debating the future of this country, that are planning the future of this country, that are planning the economy of this country. Indeed, South Africa will succeed. It has succeeded in every respect. You talked a bit about even some little bubbles in the organization.
Yes.
Is every turn of the history, that thing has happened. If I were to sit here and tell you, if anything, it strengthens the organization. There are moments where challenges take out of us the weaknesses as members. And some members move forward, some don't. Some at times get left by wayside, but others move forward. The critical thing about the ANC is that the ANC as an organization does not have a leader. Many organizations have leaders. We have a collective leadership in the ANC. You can't say there is a shortage of leaders in the ANC. And therefore, the collective thinking, it has helped this movement to move forward and therefore steer the country in the correct direction. That is why people must relax and know that South Africa will overcome all the difficulties that we have.
All right, those are the words of President Jacob Zuma. I hope that for those of you sitting at home listening, you got a bit of a glimpse of the man behind the presidency. He kept on saying off air that, maybe we should do an interview for a week. I understand now what he meant, because we did not even touch the tip of the iceberg in terms of what it is that we wanted to ask him. But Mr. President, thank you very much for your time, for your generosity in sharing a bit of yourself. And all of Fanzanzi thanks you.
Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity. And indeed, we are correct. I wish I could have more time, but don't worry. I will write a book. You will read in the book. Thank you very much.
You heard it here first. There's a book coming out.